Can we start out with why you decided to make this announcement?
Ye- Yes, we can. About 5 weeks ago, the Washington Post had an article that talked about a shakeup in the National Park Service, and my name was one of the ones they mentioned for a potential reassignment. And I had told my boss when I did my performance evaluation at the end of 17 that I intended to retire at the end of 18, early in 2019. I would not be making an announcement now, but because of that article, when I go to meetings throughout the ecosystem, when I was in Helena earlier this week for an environmental quality council meeting, numerous people approached me and said, thanks for your service, we're sorry to see you going, or addressing the issue of my departure from this position in the short term. It makes it very difficult to work, in that circumstance where everyone thinks you're not going to be there much longer. So I made the decision to make the announcement now, with my intention to retire in March of 2019, in order to bring certainty to the understanding of what the management was going to be and what it was going to look like over the next few months.
We spoke about 2 weeks ago about the list of things you would like to accomplish before you're finished. Not very many months remain. How do you see that list playing out now?
We did talk a few weeks ago about what else to be due in the next few months, and it's actually going very well. We're making great progress. Since that time, we've signed a finding of no significant impact on the operational quarantine that will allow us to move bison from Yellowstone National Park up to the Fort Peck reservations. We still have to negotiate the agreements with APHIS, the state, and the tribes in order to make sure the protocols are in place to make sure that will happen. And I believe it will, and I believe we'll move the first groups of bison at the end of 18 or in early 2019. Concession contract negotiation is going well, and I think we will have those wrapped up over the next few months. Visitor use management's a long-standing issue, or a long-standing future issue as well, that we are working very hard to collect data, to get the foundation in place to set that process up so we can make intelligent decisions about how we're going to manage visitors and how we're going to make sure we protect Yellowstone into the future. Wildlife management overall continues to be a very interesting and in times contentious issue. Cutthroat trout, we're out on the lake again, and we're doing what we can for native fish restoration. Wolves and bison are always going to be a hot topic, within the surrounding 3 states, and I think we're poised, to make sure that we're protecting this place and protect the species that rely just not on Yellowstone National Park, but the surrounding state lands and Forest Service lands that surround the park.
You mentioned at that time 2 weeks ago that you thought the biggest issue facing the park was going to be visitor use and crowding issues. You're not likely to be here when decisions about how to handle that are made. How do you feel about that? Do you pass along any advice to your successor?
Well, I think the 2 superintendents before me worked on winter use, and we got it done, during the time I was here. But we got it done because of the work that they had done leading up to the time that I arrived. I think the same is going to be true for visitor use management in Yellowstone. We have to set the foundation. We have to make sure we're going to make decisions based on science, so therefore we have to start collecting that science, whether it be the science of the impact on the natural resources or whether it be social science in terms of the impact on visitor experience. So you never expect you're going to start and finish all the aspects of a job when you get into it. And I've been successful in this job and other jobs because of the work that people have done before me. And we have an incredible staff of professionals here, and I think they will carry that on, and they will allow the next superintendent and their management team to make great decisions for Yellowstone.
Have you had a chance to talk to the secretary?
I have not.
Oh, okay. So, do you? It's ringing.
No.
So, do you have any idea about what happens from here, like a timeline or anything like that?
Well, I don't know exactly what will happen from here because I'm announcing my decision to retire 10 months beforehand. I'm hopeful that will be respected, and that's the time frame that I will continue to be at Yellowstone. I also anticipate there may be discussions between me and my bosses in Washington and perhaps the department about if that is the best course of action to go through. I just have to wait to see.
And would you like the opportunity to work with your successor for some months to make a transition?
You know, I'm confident that whoever comes to Yellowstone, and you know, the rumors were it's a gentleman, Cam Shalley, out of Omaha, who's the regional director there. If that is true, I have confidence that he will do very, very well. I would certainly be willing to talk to them whenever they want, but I think he has a great staff here, and he's going to probably get all the advice and counsel that he would need from the staff at Yellowstone National Park.
How was the transition when you came in?
You know, the transition, there was a break of about, I think former Superintendent Lewis left, I believe, in end of October, perhaps, of 2010, and I came in February of 11. The transition for me was very good because of the staff in Yellowstone National Park and because Suzanne and I had known each other for a long time. We talked generally about a lot of issues. She understood, I think, about me as I understand about my successor, that they're going to have their own way of doing things. They're going to have their own approach to problems and problem solving. I have a high level of confidence in the professionalism of who I think my successor will be, so I'm expecting it to be a good transition.
What are your personal plans after you retire?
You know, I think that I'm going to go to Rapid City, South Dakota. About 2 years ago, we bought our vacation. It's a vacation home while living in Yellowstone. About 2 years ago, we bought our retirement home in Rapid City. 2 of my 3 children live there, my grandchildren there. My most immediate plan is to take a little time, maybe reinvigorate my golf game, and enjoy my family.